For the second straight season, the Dallas Stars have been eliminated in the Western Conference Final. They put up their best fight tonight in Game 6, but the Edmonton Oilers hang on for a 2-1 victory and advance to the Stanley Cup Final. Let's put a bow on this series and season next on Locked On Stars.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. The Dallas Stars fall just short once again as the Edmonton Oilers have eliminated the Dallas Stars in 6 games in the Western Conference Final, as the Stars gave them everything they could handle tonight. But the Oilers special teams played a big factor in Game 6, and it played a big factor in the overall series. And we'll touch on that and more on today's episode of Locked On Stars. Thank you so much for joining me on this Game 6 reaction episode. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. And also, be sure to comment below how you're feeling as the Dallas Stars season has come to a close. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So I'll begin with this because I'm sure many Stars fans and many of you listeners are feeling a very similar way. This one really, really hurt. It just felt like it was the Dallas Stars' year. After the incredible regular season they had, the second most wins in franchise history, the second most points, they win the Western Conference in the regular season. They have home ice advantage throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. They had the makings of a Stanley Cup champion, but of course, that does not get you to the Stanley Cup final, and of course, it does not win you the Stanley Cup. And they fall just short once again as the Edmonton Oilers hang on for a 2-1 victory tonight in Game 6. Congratulations to the Edmonton Oilers for making it to the Stanley Cup final. They deserved it. They proved to be the better team in this series. They weren't necessarily the better team tonight in Game 6 as the Dallas Stars severely outplayed the Oilers and they went down swinging, but it just was not enough. In terms of the game, you had to like what you saw from Dallas for the most part, especially at 5-on-5. For the first time in the series, they really dictated the play at even strength. For the first time, the Corsi number was in their favor. The Corsi for percentage was 73%. They outchanced the Oilers 28-8 at 5-on-5. They high danger outchanced them at 10-5. They outshot the Oilers 35-10 in the game. They outhit them 31-18. They were better in the faceoff dot. They were better in a lot of categories, but what they weren't good at was special teams, and that was a theme throughout the whole series. And the Oilers, they pack a punch on the man advantage. They struck twice, first with an otherworldly goal from Connor McDavid. He just went McDavid on that first power play goal, and then Hyman with the other, as the Stars just left a 50-goal score all alone below the hash marks, one-on-one with Jake Ottinger, and he went upstairs, and the Oilers got a 2-0 lead, and they hung on the rest of the way. Mason Marchment gets one in the third period as the Stars really, really pushed. It was nice to see a push for them for the majority of Game 6, something they did not have in Game 5, but they just fall short as Stuart Skinner came up with some big saves down the stretch, and Edmonton in general really tidied things up defensively, and the Stars mounted a comeback, but they fall 1 goal short tonight, and the season comes to a close. So it obviously really, really hurts. It's a tough pill to swallow, especially when you think about the Jamie Benns of the world and Joe Pavelski. We'll get to him a bit later on in today's episode, but all the veterans they have and all the young guys and Jake Ottinger in goal, who had been really, really steady throughout the playoffs this season. and it just seemed like everything was going right for him. And then it all came to a halt in the series against the Oilers. And once again, big credit to Edmonton. They proved to be the better team in this series, and they deserve to move on to the Stanley Cup. Special teams, look, it was something I pretty much made as a headliner coming into this series against Edmonton. Dallas had to stay out of the box, and they had to score on their opportunities, and they went 0 in the game. And we can gripe about the officiating and some of the soft nature of some of these calls, but Dallas has nothing to hang their hat on after going 0 for 14 in the Western Conference Final on the power play. They go 0 for 14. That just is not going to cut it this time of year. And I came across a very alarming tweet, and this actually comes from Sinbin Vegas, but Pete DeBoer has been to the Western Conference Final in 5 of the last 6 seasons with 3 different teams. He has now lost 5 of them in 6 or fewer games, and the power play is a huge reason. San Jose in 2019, the Sharks were 2 for 13. Vegas in 2020 was 3 for 22. In 21, Vegas was 0 for 15. The Stars last year were 3 for 11 against Vegas, and they were 0 for 14 in the Western Conference Final this year. 0 for 14. They just could not muster up anything on the man advantage. And the more frustrating part was they really didn't seem to adjust or try to go to a different look. They stayed pat with the same strategy and same thought process throughout the series. There really wasn't a shift in their approach. They did change up the personnel here and there, but for the most part, they were still trying to run it through Miro and Robo. And credit to Edmonton, they took away that width of the rink pass. They kept Dallas to one side of the rink, and they really took all the best options away from the Stars in the series. And man, they were fantastic on the PK, and they were obviously fantastic on the power play to keep Dallas 0 for 14 in the series. And that was the difference tonight. And it was the difference in the last few games of this series. Another alarming thing I came across as Pete DeBoer took over for the Dallas Stars a year ago. They were the last team in the NHL that has not lost 3 straight games in regulation. And that came to a close. And of course, it closes out the Dallas Stars season as Edmonton rips off 3 in a row against the Stars to advance to the Stanley Cup final. So a very, very disappointing way for the Dallas Stars to end their season. It was a heck of a year, obviously, but a really, really frustrating way to lose because in my opinion, I just don't think the Dallas Stars were at their best for this series against the Oilers, at least enough. I just feel like we didn't get their best for the majority of this season and for this series. And maybe they did. Maybe they gave it everything they had in the tank or what they had left. And also, as I've said a ton throughout the last few weeks, credit to Edmonton for the way they played. They really, really shut down Dallas offensively, and they outscored Dallas 10-1 in the last 3 games. And at the end of the day, there's your series. The depth scoring for Dallas did not show up. The depth for Edmonton did. And boom, special teams really reared its ugly head, especially in the last 2 games. And the Stars just could not muster up anything. And the best players for Dallas were just not their best players in the Western Conference Final. Miro played over 30 minutes. He was on the ice the whole time, and he played a pretty decent game. I thought Tanev and Harley had their best games of the series. It finally looked like Harley started to get some things going offensively. Tanev was great, and credit to him because he was obviously playing through an injury, and he was really, really good in games 5 and 6. And obviously he was a huge impact for the Stars as a whole. And I thought Dallas played a fantastic game tonight. And if they play that way 9 times out of 10, or if they play that way for 10 games, they probably win maybe 8 to 10 of those games against Edmonton. But it just was not in the cards tonight, as the Oilers get a couple of power play goals. And they hung on. They hung on the rest of the way. Stuart Skinner was great. For the first time in the Stanley Cup playoff round, he really held them in, and he really bailed them out in key moments. And he played great. He played really, really good down the stretch for the Oilers. And obviously it helped that he got enough run support from some of the big boys. And at the end of the day, the Dallas Stars got beat by a better team. I would have really loved for Dallas to be at their best for the majority of the season, and maybe it shakes out differently. There are a lot of moments you can look back at in each game where you think if it went this way, maybe the outcome is different. The one for me that hasn't been able to get out of my head for the last couple of days, especially, was the 4-minute power play in overtime that they had in game 1 when McDavid took a high sticking double minor. That's the one that really tugs at the heartstrings, because if Dallas finds a way to end that game and they go up 1-0, who knows how it all changes. And look, these are hypotheticals at the end of the day, and Robo hits the pipe twice on that power play, but that's the one that really sticks out for me. But Edmonton deserve to move on, and they do, and they make it to the Stanley Cup final, and Dallas comes up 2 wins short of the Stanley Cup final for the second straight season. And this one is real bitter, of course, because as I mentioned at the top of the show, it felt like this was going to be the Dallas Stars year. Everything was coming together, and it felt different. It felt different for the first time in a while. They had these huge expectations coming into the season, and for the most part, they lived up to all of them. And they go through this grueling postseason run, and sometimes you just get outmatched. And they met their match here this season, and it comes to the Edmonton Oilers as they fall in 6 games. Please let me know how you're feeling in the comment section below. Let it all out. It's a safe space as always. So let it all out, and we will be very, very somber today and tomorrow as we relive this Dallas Stars season. Let's talk about the depth in special teams a bit more, in really some of the shortcomings for the Stars in this series that had them fall short just again. We'll do that in a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. So the Dallas Stars' depth is something that carried them for the majority of this season, and frankly, in the first 2 rounds against Vegas and Colorado, but it just did not have the staying power against Edmonton. And that was the most impressive thing I saw from the Oilers in the series coming in. Not watching Edmonton every day, obviously, but players like Connor Brown and McLeod and Carrick and even Corey Perry had very, very impactful series for Edmonton. And that just wasn't the case for Dallas. The fourth line of Steele, Dodonov, Smith, or Steele, Foxa, Dellandrea, whatever the combination was for Pete DeBoer at the time, it just did not have the punch or the tone setter that we had seen in the first two rounds. And for Edmonton, it's not that all of those guys produced a ton in the series. It's just they had impactful shifts, and they played the majority of their shifts in the offensive zone, wearing out Dallas's defense. A lot of dump and chase hockey. They were physical and just winning battles and setting up the next line for success for the Dreisaitl's of the world and the McDavids that just went to town in this series. And the big boys for Edmonton sang, obviously. And on the other side, the best players for Dallas, such as Miro and Rope, and I know Robo had the hat-trick game in Game 3, but outside of that, they didn't have their best series as well. And it's really, really hard to match the high-end talent of Edmonton when you're not getting the production from your big guys, let alone your depth. And sometimes you live by your strengths, and you sort of die by it as well. And it felt like that was sort of the case in this series against Edmonton. You didn't get enough for Matt Duchene. He had 6 points in 18 games throughout the postseason. You look at somebody like Dodonov, you'd like to have a bit more, even though he played really, really well. Pavelski, obviously, his struggles, just 4 points in 18 games. He only had 1 goal in the postseason. And he had a great regular season, and Joe continues to defy Father Time. Well, at least the last few years, but maybe it finally caught up to him in this postseason. But Joe has to be big this time of year, right? Like, this is the time of year where Joe Pavelski needs to come up with big goals. And his, 15 to 25 goals in the regular season are fantastic and they're great. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, right? You're looking for 8 to 10 goals at this time of year from Joe Pavelski to have a big impact. And that was obviously a lot to ask out of him. And I thought he played his strongest game of the postseason tonight. You can say what you want about him and him not having it for the first 17 games, but give him credit. He went down swinging, and he went down as really being one of the better forwards tonight for Dallas. I thought he had a really, really strong game. And yes, it comes in a losing effort, but that's the type of character you get out of guys like Joe Pavelski. But at the end of the day, the depth just did not come through for the Stars like they would have hoped. You just didn't get out. You just didn't get enough out of your bottom six. And Edmonton outplayed you in that department, and special teams, of course. I already spoke to it a bit, but 0 for 14 on the power play in the series. Edmonton makes you pay 4 times in the last 2 games, and who knows if Dallas is able to stay out of the box here a few times tonight, then they probably win, and we're headed to we're heading to a game 7, but they just weren't able to put it all together. There was flashes, there was moments, there was sustained stretches, but they just never played a full game in the series. Even in their wins, they just never played a full 60 minutes. And they weren't able to just roll 4. Well, they were able to roll 4 lines, but not to any effectiveness. And DeBoer tried to throw the lines in a blender tonight, and it worked, obviously, from an eye test perspective. It worked, and they were generating chances finally, the most they had generated in the last 2 games, but they just weren't able to solve Skinner enough. And and they were only able to muster up one goal, right? You just get what? You get one goal tonight. You had one in game 4. You just get 2 goals in the last 2 games. That's just not going to cut it this time of year. And unfortunately, the biggest strengths for Dallas this season really did not come to a fruition in this series. They were very good on the power play, and they were, pretty good on the PK for the majority of the year. They were top 10 in both categories, and it came crashing down. I mean, Edmonton killed off, 28 straight power plays? That is impressive. They killed 28 straight power plays, and Dallas never even really had a look. There's not one I can think back to in this series in 6 games where, they looked good and they should have scored. They just got out goalied. And there was some of those moments, but they really never sniffed a goal. And the PK for Edmonton was brilliant. They shut down Dallas. They forced him on the perimeter. It looked like Dallas was struggling to peel it off the wall and just could never find any space to create a good look. They couldn't get to their spots. And for the first time in this postseason, they were just all out of sorts. They were out of sorts, especially in the last 3 games. They were trying to find it. And they found some of it tonight, but it was too little too late, right? It was too little too late, and I thought game 5, whoever won that was going to win the series, and Edmonton was brilliant in that game. Unfortunately, the Stars pretty much no-showed, and you lose that game. It's an uphill climb to win 2 in a row, and Edmonton put a lot of streaks to bed here tonight, such as the Stars not losing 3 straight games in regulation under the helm of Pete DeBoer. And that comes to a close tonight. And Pete DeBoer falls just short once again, but the Dallas Stars fall 2 wins short of the Stanley Cup final for the 2nd straight season. Let's give a quick glimpse of where the Stars can go and all of that good stuff. We'll put a bow on the season in general, and that's how we'll close it up tonight on hopefully a positive note of Locked On Stars, and we'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. I know the Stars are done, but the Dallas Mavericks are starting up the NBA Finals in just a few days. It's winner take all time in the NBA, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. The Boston Celtics opened up as favorites in the NBA Finals over the Dallas Mavericks, and the Mavericks continue to grind their ways to victory. Go ahead and make some money on the Mavericks this postseason while you're enjoying the NBA Finals from your account. Sprinkle a little money on the Dallas Mavericks to beat the Boston Celtics. And as I mentioned, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. So what are you waiting for? Download it on your smartphone. It's free. It's on the App Store. It's on the Google Play Store. It takes 30 seconds and make some money this postseason. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The hard part to see after the season ending, and of course now me speaking abruptly after it, is to see some of the positives and a lot of the great stuff that happened in 2023 and 2024. But the facts are the Dallas Stars have been in the Western Conference Final in 3 of the last 5 seasons, which doesn't happen a ton. And they've come very, very close to lifting the Stanley Cup, and they've been very, very close to at least getting back to a chance of fighting for it once again. But they have some decisions now that they have to make, and of course the tough one is the future of Joe Pavelski. And Johnston, Pav, and Sagan all spoke tonight, and they got choked up just talking about him as a hockey player, of course, but just a fantastic human being, and the impact he's had on the Dallas Stars franchise cannot be overstated. He has been an integral part of the Dallas Stars every year he has been here, and it hasn't been a ton, just 3 years, but he feels like a Dallas Star. It's almost hard to believe he was in San Jose for all those years, just for the impact he has, and who knows if this is the last time he ever suits it up, which is almost tear worthy to think about in general. But he is getting up there, of course, and who knows if he wants to run it back. He is, he's about to approach year 40. He's about to be 40 years of age, and at times it still looks like he has a ton to give. And he had a great regular season, a really, really tough Stanley Cup playoffs. But those are the players that you think about now, and maybe his career comes to an end, which would be heartbreaking in a lot of ways. I think it is. He's been so close to a cup so many times, and felt like maybe this was the side to do it. And then your mind wanders to Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin. Is this the last chance for them to get it done? And I know Seguin is a UFA in 27, 28, so he's under contract for 3 more years. Ben has another year. You have to make a decision on Duchene and Tanev. Probably have to decide which one of those you want to keep here moving forward. And obviously Duchene had an immediate impact for Dallas. You have the Sam Steeles of the world, in Craig Smiths. Hakanpää is also a UFA here. So there's a lot of decisions that the Stars are going to have to make. But what a year, and what a season it truly was. One of the best in franchise history, and it's really, really hard to see that now. And thank you to the Dallas Stars for all the theater and drama they provided this year. It truly was second to none. And I do want to thank you, the listener, as well, of Locked On Stars, that has listened every single day. All you everydayers out there, of me rambling about the Stars night in and night out. It truly was a pleasure to do this. And of course, I'll be doing it here for the near future. Not like I'm going anywhere, but just to put a bow on this season. Thank you for listening every day, and just showing me love and support for the last 6, 7, 8 months, whatever it has been, because it truly has been amazing. And I'm truly grateful that I'm able to have this opportunity to talk about the Dallas Stars every single day, a team that I grew up loving, and a team that I love and I will continue to love. And hopefully one day they will lift the Stanley Cup once again. But that was not in the cards this season. So that's just a very, very miniature version of an off season that the Stars will have to endure. But you got the draft here in about a month, and free agency and all that good stuff. And we'll dive into all of that. That's for another time, though. Thank you once again for joining me on Locked On Stars. Please hit that notification bell, hit the subscribe button. We hit 3,000 subscribers, by the way. So thank you guys so much for that. Let's continue to grow this community. It's been fantastic. Please comment below. Let the frustrations out, or just a few thoughts to wrap up this season. And we'll do it all again next season. October can't get here fast enough, Stars fans. So that'll do it for today's episode of Locked On Stars. Thank you once again. Thank you for all the wonderful support, especially during this postseason run. You guys have been amazing. So let's enjoy the Mavericks, and hopefully they bring another championship back to Dallas. Well, that'll do it for the 2023-24 Dallas Stars season and Locked On Stars podcast. So long, Stars fans.